This time, Alex Eala does not need anyone to open the door for her. No wild card, no qualifying grind, no special invitation. She has officially earned direct entry into Washington's loaded WTA 500 tournament, and while that might look like a routine line on an entry list, it tells one of the biggest stories of her young career. Just 16 months ago, Eala was in a completely different position. She was only 19 years old, ranked number 140 in the world, and needed a wild card just to get into the Miami Open. She had already built an impressive junior resume and had been viewed as one of the Philippines' most promising tennis talents for years. But professional tennis does not hand out permanent rewards for potential. At that level, you have to win. You have to earn ranking points. You have to prove that you belong. Now Eala is returning to the United States under entirely different circumstances. She does not need a favor from a tournament director. She does not have to survive qualifying before the main draw even begins. Her ranking has already secured her place. In Miami, somebody opened the door for her. In Washington, Alex Eala opened it herself. That difference matters because of everything she has accomplished since her breakthrough. Eala has climbed into the top 50, reached the first WTA Tour singles final of her career, won multiple WTA 125 titles, defeated elite opponents on different surfaces, and produced the deepest Grand Slam singles run ever achieved by a Filipina. Her unforgettable Wimbledon 2026 campaign pushed her reputation to another level. She stunned defending champion Iga Swiatek on center court, advanced to the fourth round, and left London as a proven top 40 player and one of the brightest young stars on the WTA Tour. That is why Washington feels different. Alex Eala is no longer showing up as an unknown teenager, hoping one big week will change her life. She is arriving as a player the entire field recognizes, respects, and prepares for. Opponents are not overlooking her anymore. They are studying her film, analyzing her patterns, and building match plans specifically designed to stop her. Fans are no longer surprised to see her on a major court. They expect her to be there. Miami may have introduced Alex Eala to the global tennis audience, but everything she has done since then has delivered the same message loud and clear. She is not going anywhere. A wild card can be incredibly valuable. It can give a gifted young prospect a shot, help a former champion return to competition, or reward a player with strong local support whose ranking is not high enough to enter automatically. Miami showed exactly how powerful that opportunity can be. But direct entry means something more. It means the ranking system itself has confirmed that a player belongs. A tournament director no longer has to decide whether to give that athlete a chance, because the results have already made the decision. For years, Eala lived in that difficult space between promise and proof. Tennis insiders knew her name. She had won the US Open girls singles title, developed her game at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, and established herself as one of the greatest tennis prospects the Philippines had ever produced. But professional tennis can be brutally straightforward. It does not reward reputation. It rewards victories. Before Miami, Eala was still trying to gain access to the tournaments offering the biggest prize money, the most valuable ranking points, and the greatest opportunities to face elite competition. That is one of the harshest parts of life outside the top tier of professional tennis. Higher-ranked players receive automatic places in major events. They arrive knowing they are already in the main draw, while lower-ranked players may have to fly halfway around the world and win several elimination matches before the tournament officially starts. Qualifying can drain a player physically and emotionally. Even when someone survives it, they may enter the main draw having already spent days competing under intense pressure. Others lose before most casual fans even realize they were at the tournament. Alex Eala knows that feeling firsthand. At Wimbledon in 2024, she won 2 qualifying matches and came within 1 victory of reaching her first main draw at the All England Club. Then Lulu Sun stopped her in the final qualifying round. It was a painful loss because Eala was so close. She could see the opportunity right in front of her, but in professional tennis, coming close does not move a ranking. Only wins do. Instead of allowing that disappointment to define her, she used it as motivation. She kept training, kept traveling, and kept entering tournaments where every match carried major consequences. There was no guarantee that a breakthrough would ever come, but she continued believing that steady improvement would eventually create the opportunity she had been chasing. Then Miami happened. Eala entered the 2025 Miami Open as a 19-year-old wildcard ranked number 140 in the world. Most fans viewed her as a talented young player receiving valuable experience while the spotlight remained fixed on the biggest stars in the sport. Instead, she became the biggest story of the tournament. She began her stunning run by defeating former Grand Slam champion Jelena Ostapenko, a player whose explosive power has overwhelmed some of the best athletes on tour. One upset might have been dismissed as a perfect day, a favorable matchup, or a flash of brilliance. Eala made sure nobody could dismiss it. She followed that victory by defeating Madison Keys, another Grand Slam champion and one of the most dangerous hard-court players in women's tennis. At that point, this was no longer a feel-good story about a teenager enjoying one lucky week. It was a real breakthrough. Then came the biggest test of all, Iga Swiatek. Swiatek had the ranking, the titles, the movement, the consistency, and the championship mindset that had defined an era of women's tennis. Entered with almost nothing to lose. But she never played like someone who was simply happy to be on the same court. She defended without fear, attacked when opportunities appeared, redirected Swiatek's pace, stayed composed under relentless pressure, and refused to let the reputation on the other side of the net control her decisions. Eala won in straight sets. In one unforgettable tournament, a 19-year-old wildcard from the Philippines defeated 3 Grand Slam champions and reached the semifinals of a WTA 1000 event. The tennis world had no choice but to pay attention. But the most important reward was not the headlines, the social media attention, or the sudden wave of international recognition. It was the ranking points. Eala climbed 65 places, moving from number 140 to number 75 in the world, and becoming the first Filipina in history to enter the WTA Top 100. That ranking jump changed the direction of her career. Before Miami, her schedule depended heavily on qualifying draws, wildcards, and hoping somebody would give her an opportunity. After Miami, more main draw spots became available. Instead of constantly chasing access, she could start building a schedule around long-term development. She could choose tournaments more strategically, prepare more thoroughly, recover properly between events, and create a structure designed for progress rather than survival. Still, Miami created a new question. Could she keep doing it once the element of surprise was gone? Tennis history is filled with players who produced one magical week and then struggled to repeat it. The WTA Tour adjusts quickly. Coaches break down match footage. Opponents identify patterns. Weaknesses get targeted. After Miami, everybody knew what Alex Eala could do. They understood how disruptive her left-handed game could be, how well she absorbed pace, how effectively she redirected powerful shots, and how calm she remained against major champions. She was no longer catching people off guard. Every opponent arrived prepared. Eala did not suddenly become unbeatable. She suffered difficult losses, dealt with physical challenges, and faced experienced players who exposed parts of her game that still needed work. That was not failure. That was the normal development of a young professional. The key was that she continued moving forward. At Eastbourne, she fought through qualifying and reached the first WTA Tour singles final of her career, becoming the first Filipina ever to reach a singles final at that level. She later won a WTA 125 title in Guadalajara, adding another trophy to her resume while continuing to climb. Soon, she became the first Filipina to break into the WTA Top 50. Miami was no longer looking like a one-week miracle. It was becoming the starting point of a legitimate rise. Then the 2026 grass court season arrived, and Eala found another gear. She captured another WTA 125 title in Birmingham and carried that momentum into Berlin. There, she faced world number 2 Elena Rybakina, a former Wimbledon champion with one of the most dangerous serves in women's tennis. Eala delivered another statement, defeating Rybakina in straight sets. The very next day, she returned to beat another top 10 star, Elena Svitolina, and advanced to the semi-finals. Those victories mattered for a major reason. Eala was no longer succeeding at only one tournament or on only one surface. She was proving that her game could travel. She could compete with elite players in different conditions and still find ways to win. More importantly, she was doing it after the entire tour had learned her name. The top players understood the challenge she presented, and she was still beating them. Then came Wimbledon 2026, the tournament that turned her rise into history. Eala arrived in London as a seeded player, a dramatic change from 2024, when she had been forced to battle through qualifying just to chase a main draw spot. She won her opening match, survived a demanding second round, and stepped onto center court for the biggest test of her career, a rematch with defending champion Iga Swiatek. The significance was impossible to ignore. Their Miami meeting had introduced Eala to the world, but this time, the circumstances were completely different. In Miami, Alex Eala had been an unknown wildcard with nothing to lose. At Wimbledon, Swiatek knew exactly what was coming. The crowd recognized Eala. The media viewed her as a legitimate threat. The tennis world understood that her first victory had not been a fluke. The pressure was much heavier. This was center court at Wimbledon, the most iconic stage in tennis, against the defending champion, with millions watching around the world. Eala responded with the same fearlessness that had powered her Miami breakthrough. She fought through a tense opening set, saved critical set points, stayed aggressive in the biggest moments, and refused to retreat when the pressure reached its highest level. Once she took control, she never gave it back. Eala defeated Swiatek in straight sets and advanced to the fourth round. With that win, she became the first Filipina to reach the second week of a Grand Slam singles tournament. That achievement completely changed the meaning of her direct entry into Washington. Without everything that came after Miami, an automatic main draw place in a WTA 500 tournament could look like a simple administrative detail. Now it is undeniable proof of how far she has come. It shows that her ranking reflects her actual level, that her success is based on consistency rather than one unforgettable week, and that the player who once struggled to gain access to major tournaments has become one of the athletes fans are buying tickets to see. Washington's field is filled with Grand Slam champions, established contenders, and players who have spent years competing on the sport's biggest stages. Alex Eala is not standing beside them because of a special invitation or because her story is inspiring. She is there because her results earned it. Her ranking earned it. She now belongs among the elite competitors on the WTA Tour. Of course, direct entry does not guarantee success. It does not make the draw easier, protect her from a dangerous first-round opponent, or promise another deep run. It simply puts her on the same starting line as everyone else. What happens from there will depend entirely on her tennis. And in many ways, that creates an even tougher challenge. For most of her early career, Eala was fighting to prove she deserved access to the biggest tournaments. Now she is dealing with the pressure of expectation. Those are two very different battles. It is easier to swing freely when almost nobody expects you to win. It becomes much harder when fans anticipate another huge upset every time you walk onto the court, when opponents have carefully studied your return position, movement, second serve, and favorite patterns under pressure, and when victories are no longer treated like miracles, but viewed as the next step in your development. That is the real test waiting in Washington. Can she carry the confidence from Wimbledon onto North American hard courts? Can she recover physically and mentally after the deepest Grand Slam run of her career? Can she remain aggressive as expectations continue to rise? And can she turn historic victories into consistent success from one week to the next? Those questions are not signs of doubt. They are evidence of progress. Players only get studied this closely when they become real threats. Expectations only follow athletes who have already proven they can deliver on major stages. The conversation around Alex Eala has changed. People are no longer asking whether she is talented enough to compete with the world's best. They are asking how high she can climb and how much history she can make. Washington will also test her ability to transition between surfaces. Grass rewards quick reactions, low bouncing shots, explosive first strikes, and aggressive attacking tennis. Hard courts create different demands. Rallies often last longer. Defensive movement becomes more important. Opponents have more opportunities to attack second serves, and physical endurance plays a larger role during the demanding North American swing. Adapting successfully will be another important step in Eala's development, and another chance to prove that her rise is powered by a complete game capable of succeeding everywhere. The good news is that Eala already knows she can win on hard courts. Miami is where everything changed. Washington gives her an opportunity to return to the surface as a completely different player. She is stronger, more experienced, and more confident than she was just over a year ago. She has faced the best players in the world, defeated multiple Grand Slam champions, handled pressure on the biggest courts, and learned what it takes to perform when the expectations are sky high. Most importantly, she understands the difference between arriving as a hopeful prospect and arriving as a player everybody respects. Her place in Washington also represents something much bigger than one tournament. Alex Eala is not only creating opportunities for herself, she is changing what young athletes in the Philippines believe is possible. For decades, the highest levels of professional tennis have largely been dominated by nations with established coaching systems, major tournaments, deep financial resources, and generations of elite players. The Philippines has always had passionate sports fans and outstanding athletes, but it had never seen one of its women rise this high in professional tennis. Eala is rewriting that story in real time. Every direct entry, every seeded appearance, every championship run, and every victory over a Grand Slam winner expands the possibilities for the Filipino players who will come after her. When she competes, fans in Manila follow every point with pride. Filipino communities across the United States arrive with national flags and turn sections of stadiums into a sea of support that feels like home. People who once paid little attention to WTA rankings are now studying tournament draws, entry lists, ranking points, and surface changes because they want to understand every step of her journey. That kind of connection cannot be manufactured by marketing. It happens when supporters genuinely believe they are watching history unfold. Alex Eala has given them every reason to feel that way, but she also deserves the freedom to keep developing without carrying impossible expectations. At 21 years old, she is still near the beginning of her professional career. There will be tough losses, there will be frustrating weeks, there will be opponents who expose weaknesses she still needs to improve. None of that means her rise has stopped. It is part of becoming an elite athlete. Not every tournament can become another Miami, and not every match can become another Wimbledon Classic. The real measure of Alex Eala's future will be how she responds when the spotlight remains bright, the opponents are ready, and the victories are harder to earn. Washington is not simply her next tournament. It is the clearest sign yet that she has crossed into a new stage of her career. She no longer needs a wild card to join the conversation. Her tennis has already made sure she belongs in it.